Hello everybody, welcome back to Simple Gaming Review. Today I want to talk about the Switch 2 and is the Switch 2 worth it? Been playing this console for what? It's been like 2 weeks I think. I got Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Switch 2, Mario Kart World, obviously, Cyberpunk, and Mario Party. I've been playing my Switch 2 every single day, pretty much. I've also been playing my PlayStation 5 over there that has a dust cover on it. But is the Switch 2 worth getting? Well, the things I really want to say is that Switch 1 games are so much better on the Switch 2. The Switch 2 drastically makes Switch 1 games, ones that have bugs, ones that have graphical issues, or performance issues, it makes them improved experiences on the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. The Switch 2 also has, of course, its own games. Mario Kart World has been my favorite Switch 2 game. It is so much fun. And the overall experience, it's been pretty great. Nintendo Switch 2, been using this for a while, been using it for 2 weeks. And honestly, it's everything the Switch 2 should have been. You know what I mean? Like, the Switch 2 should have been what Nintendo created before. Not trying to say that the Switch 1 is bad, but like, imagine if the Switch 2 was just the Switch. But the Switch 2 takes everything good about the Switch 1 and it upgrades it or updates it by like 100, The Switch 2 performs better, it's graphically better, it's more powerful, it's quicker, it's faster, bigger controllers, bigger Joy-Cons, bigger screen, the magnetic Joy-Cons, they ain't gonna break on you, they just kind of glue themselves to the console. Overall, the Switch 2 has been a fantastic experience. In dock mode, you get 4K on your TV, if you have a 4K TV, and the Switch 2, I just think, is a better Switch, you know what I mean? It's pretty much everything people wanted from the Switch. People kept on saying, we want a Switch Pro, we want Nintendo to create a Switch Pro. The Switch 2 is a different console, it is the Switch 2, but yes, it basically is the Pro Switch people actually wanted. And honestly, I think 450 I think 450 is actually pretty good for the Nintendo Switch 2. A Steam Deck could cost $600, $500. And for what you get with the Switch 2, it does make sense as to why it would be $450 because you're getting massive improvements, you're getting 4K, and Nintendo has to, make these parts. It's not just cheap parts put together. The Switch 2 is a lot more modernized, and its power level is close to an Xbox Series S or like a PlayStation 4 Pro. And certain games I've played on the Switch 2, they look amazing graphically that I forget I'm even using a Nintendo Switch 2. So my experience with Switch 2 has been fantastic, it's been great. So is the Nintendo Switch 2 worth getting? Well, it all depends on who you are as a person. If you're somebody who's a big Nintendo fan who has a Switch 1, I would say upgrade to a Switch 2 so that you can have your Switch 1 games actually perform and look better on the Switch 2 hardware. If you're a Mario Kart fan, I would also say to buy a Switch 2 because Mario Kart World is a fantastic game with tons of content. But overall, though, if you're a big Nintendo fan, the Switch 2 will definitely be for you. If you're a Switch 1 fan or Switch OLED person who has a Switch OLED, I also would say the Switch 2 is a perfect upgrade, and it does what it's supposed to do. It makes Switch 1 games look so much better, it performs better, and it's a more reliable, more well-built Nintendo Switch console. So, if you're somebody who wants the next Nintendo console, get a Switch 2. If you want Mario Kart World, get a Switch 2. And if you're somebody who wanted to have a more powerful Switch, a Switch Pro, the Switch 2 definitely would be for you. And obviously, Nintendo's audience is like Pokemon, Mario Kart, Smash Bros. That's Nintendo's audience. So if you like those games, if you like Donkey Kong, right? If you like Mario Kart, if you like Mario in general, and Smash Bros, Pokemon, obviously the Switch 2 is for you. You know, some people say that, oh, you know, Switch 2 sucks or whatever, it's little kiddie games, and PlayStation and Xbox have better games. But people have to realize the audience. Obviously, adults and kids like Nintendo because of games like Mario and Pokemon. And people get PlayStation for other games, and people get Xbox for Halo and Gears of War. That's how it's always been. So, if you're in the audience that likes those games, Nintendo games, if you're somebody who likes Donkey Kong, Mario, Pokemon, Smash, well, most likely going to get a new Smash Bros., then the Switch 2 is a perfect option for you, especially because it upgrades everything from the Switch 1. It performs better, it's faster, it's bigger, it's nicer, and even though I have a Switch OLED, the Switch 2 screen, you don't really notice that much of a difference. The LCD screen on the Switch 2 is shockingly, like, it's impressive. Like, I look at the OLED, I look at the Switch 2, and surprisingly, the Switch 2's screen, I don't want to say it's like better, but it's very similar or close to the Switch OLED. So you're not really missing out when it comes to the screen, you're not really missing out on anything. And again, if you're a Nintendo fan, or if you're somebody who has a Switch 1 still, this is the perfect console for you. Yes, it's a little pricey, but $450 for the Switch 2 I think is honestly worth it. Now, the true question is Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong, all these games worth $80? No. Mario Kart World's not worth $80. Maybe it should be $70, not $80, but that's just the way things are nowadays. But anyway, is the Switch 2 worth it? Definitely pick one up if you're in that audience. I love the Switch 2. I also love my PS5. Been using both of them, and you know, people have to understand that, you know, Steam Deck versus Switch 2 makes 0 sense because you're looking at different audiences and completely different platforms. A Steam Deck is a PC, okay? A Switch 2 is a game console that's for its own audience, you know what I mean? So, you know, when you're making videos on these versus videos on Switch 2 versus Steam Deck, Switch 2 versus PS5 or Xbox, it's kind of dumb to do these versus videos because there's a different audience for all these companies, and there's different reasons for why somebody would want this over something else. That's just how it is. If somebody wants PC games to run in handheld mode, you buy a Steam Deck. It's pretty simple. But anyway, leave a like, comment down below what you think about Nintendo Switch 2, and is the Switch 2 worth it? And hope you all have a lovely day or night, and peace out. But yes, the Switch 2 is worth getting. It has massive upgrades, has a massive screen, and yeah, anyway, peace out.